Let's continue in section 1.4. We're solving quadratic equations. We already learned how to solve by factoring, and now we want to use the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula says if you have an equation in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, then x is equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. This is quite a formula. There's a couple of things I'd like to do with it. First of all, I'd just like to practice the formula, practice using the formula on these examples that are coming up. And then at the end of section 1.4, I'd like to show you where this formula actually comes from. So we'll save that for a little bit later. So here's our first example, 3x squared minus 8 equals negative 10x. If you remember, this is one of the equations that we already solved by factoring. So we can use the quadratic formula and we can verify that we get the same solutions either way. And so the first step should be to set the thing equal to 0 so that we get it in this form that's required, having ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So we'll add 10x to both sides and we'll get 3x squared plus 10x minus 8 equals 0. And then we need to recognize the coefficients a, b, and c so that we can plug them into this formula. And so let's do that. So a is the coefficient on x squared. A is equal to 3. And b is the coefficient on x. B is equal to 10. And c is the constant at the end. In this problem, c is equal to negative 8. And so let's go ahead and plug these three numbers in and see what we get. So x will be equal to negative b, that's negative 10 plus or minus. Notice the plus and the minus are going to give two different solutions, just as we expect for a quadratic equation. Underneath the radical we have b squared. B is 10. 10 squared minus 4 times a, which is 3, times c, which is negative 8, all over 2 times a, which is 3. I'll just take a moment and remind you that you need to memorize this formula for the exam, and this will be an important formula throughout the course. So let's go ahead and simplify this expression now. Underneath the radical, you have 10 squared, which is 100. And then you have, let's see, negative 4 times 3 is negative 12. And then that negative 12 times negative 8 is a positive 96. And then in the denominator, you just have 6. So we can go ahead and write that as 196 underneath the radical. And then the square root of 196 is going to be 14. So we'll have negative 10 plus 14 over 6. Or negative 10 minus 14 over 6. And so this is a good time to split the two solutions apart, to write the plus in one expression and the minus in the other expression, because now we can simplify further with either the addition or the subtraction. With the addition here, negative 10 plus 14 is positive 4 over 6, which is 2/3. And The other solution has x equals negative 10 minus 14 is negative 24 over 6, which is negative 4. And so our two answers are 2/3 and negative 4. And you can check that those are the same two solutions we got the first time we worked the problem. You could also take these solutions and plug them back into the equation and verify that they really do make the equation true. Okay, let's go ahead and do this one more time. Here's another equation. 2x squared equals x minus 4. Let's go ahead and subtract the x over to the left and add the 4 over to the left. And here's what we get. And so then can you see that a is equal to 2, b is negative 1, and c is equal to 4. And when we plug into the quadratic formula, we get negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c. I've gone a little bit faster there. You have to be careful that you're keeping track of the value of each of the letters, and also that you remember what the formula says. The denominator is 2 times a, so that would be 2 times 2. And then when we solve this, we get 1 plus or minus the square root of, let's see here, this is 1 minus, that's 8 times 4 is 32. 1 minus 32. Let's see if I can get my screen back here. 1 minus 32 is negative 31 over 4. And this is an interesting moment because now we have the square root of a negative number. Do you remember what to do with that? We learned in the previous section that for the square root of a negative number, we wind up with an imaginary number, or a non-real complex number. So to simplify the square root of negative 31, we want to take I out from underneath the radical and leave positive 31 by itself. And then in the denominator, we have a 4. And then, you know, what would be nice would be to go ahead and write the solution in the form a plus bi. And so what's the value of a in this problem? The value of a is 1/4. And then the value of b is positive or negative root 31 over 4. And then there's an I at the end. So here are our two solutions. And it might be nice to write them again. You could actually write them separately. The first solution was 1/4 plus root 31 over 4 times I. And the second solution is 1/4 minus root 31 over 4 times I. Okay, non-real complex numbers for our solutions.